Hello everyone, welcome to IAS Baba's 60 days rapid revision series for Prelims 2022. This is day 27 and we take up some of the history topics. Friends, as and when we discussed in the earlier classes how to study history, so first we study the chronology. So they are the easiest ones to tackle in prelims, and next is the geographical perspective of history. So mark the places and find them in the map. Then the administrative perspective, so what is Ijradari system, Iqtidari system, Mansabdari system, so likewise a comparison. And then the art and culture perspective. So that anyway we study in the art and culture part, a brief brush up here. So first we go with the chronology. So whenever you are going with the chronology, make sure that the units, so they are the same. So here we have the Paleolithic period, that is from 2 million BC, that means 20 lakh BC to 10,000 BC. Then Mesolithic period, that is 10,000 to 8,000 BC, and the Neolithic period, so that is 8,000 to 2,000 BC. Then Indus Valley civilization, so BC 2700 to 1900 BC, and then Chalcolithic period 4000 BC to 1500 BC. So here remember the Indus Valley or Harappan civilization that coincides with the Neolithic and the Chalcolithic age. Then the Iron Age or the Vedic Age 1500 to 200 BC. Then comes the Mauryan Age, that is 324 to 127 BC. And then comes the Sangam Age. So during Sangam Age, that is 300 BC to 300 AD. In North India we had the Bactrians, Parthians, Kushanas and others. So the Parthians and Kushanas, they ruled India during the 00 AD or during the 1st century. So here then the Gupta comes after the Sangam age. So after the Parthians, Kushans and others, so we get Guptas. So Guptas, they rule till 500, and after that we know post Guptas will come, and after that in the 7th century AD Harshavardhan comes. After Harshavardhan, Palas, Pratyaras and Rashtrakutas will be there, and after Palas, Pratyaras and Rashtrakutas, so slowly we move into the medieval India. So mark these and remember again and again. Then Paleolithic, some of the facts. So here we have the lower Paleolithic, middle Paleolithic and upper Paleolithic. So here from 20 lakh BC to nearly 50,000 BC, so we will be having this lower Paleolithic, and then 50,000 to 40,000 BC we will be having the middle Paleolithic, then 40,000 to 8,000 BC, so we will be having this upper Paleolithic. So here the time gap for lower is very huge and bit less for the middle Paleolithic, and even for upper Paleolithic it is much bigger. So here only 10,000 years, and here we have some 32,000 years. So likewise, so whatever, so on the basis of the evidence which we get, so we have classified this. So these are not the hard and fast rule. So if you go to the Egypt and others, so these numbers can change. For India, most of the times this will be. Then coming to the facts, the early old stone age sites are found in the valley of Soan or Sohan River, and then the lower Paleolithic tools have also been found in the Belan Valley. So here we need not go in that depth. So just make sure that the geographical perspective, so that means Soan River where it is, and here we have some the early Paleolithic evidences, and then the lower Paleolithic, remember Belan Valley, and then the Didwana in Rajasthan and in the caves of rock shelters of Bhimbetka. So here also we have the evidences as back as 1 lakh BC. So remember Didwana. So if you had done the geographical perspective of Didwana, so Didwana was present in 2021 prelims. So apart from these three, we also have the important places near Narmada Valley, near Kashmir Valley, and also near Tungabhadra Valley in Karnataka. So remember the Kashmir Valley in the north, Narmada in between, and Tungabhadra in the south. Mesolithic age. So the Mesolithic culture, that was from 9000 to 4000 BC. So now the time duration is just 5000 years. And the Mesolithic people lived on hunting, fishing and food gathering. And the Mesolithic site, Bagor in Rajasthan, is very well excavated. So mark this as important. Then Adamgarh in Madhya Pradesh and Bagor in Rajasthan provide earliest evidence of domestication of animals. So mark it as important, Bagor and Adamgarh. Then comes the Mesolithic art. So here the Bhimbetka is very famous, and here the birds, animals and human beings, then circling, festivating, merrymaking, dancing, hunting, all these are being well depicted. And we also see that here, as and when we move from Paleolithic painting to Neolithic painting, the size of the painting will become smaller, and also the precision will increase. Okay, so these are some of the ones. Then Neolithic, the Neolithic age. So here mainly the agriculture started. So the food producers, so that is the age of food producers. So this starts from 9000 BC again. So here we have an overlap between the Mesolithic and Neolithic. So even though they overlap, no issues with that. Then the only Neolithic settlement in the Indian subcontinent attributed to the 7000 BC lies in Mehergarh. So Mehergarh, Balochistan, Pakistan. So mark this as important, the only again. Then generally Neolithic settlements found in South India are not older than 2500 BC. So in South India we have the latest ones, and then the people of this age use tools and implements of polished stones. So Neolithic means characterized by polished stones. And then the Neolithic people of Burzahom, they lived there on a lakeside in pits. So pit dwelling. So that was prominent in Burzahom during Neolithic age. Then the people of Gufkaral, so literally the cave of the potter. So this is the name of Gufkaral of Srinagar, practiced both agriculture and domestication of animals. So Burzahom and Gufkaral. And then the only other place which has yielded considerable bone implements in India is Chirand. So remember Chirand, it is 40 km west of Patna. So these are some of the facts. Then moving ahead. And then one more Neolithic site is Burzahom. So this is called the place of birch, and here it is interesting in Burzahom, the domestic dogs were buried with their masters in their graves. So here the domestication of animals was one thing, pet animals was another, and then the emotional sentiment was a third. Then the placing of domestic dogs in the graves of masters do not seem to be the practice with Neolithic people in any other part of India. So it was unique to the Burzahom of Jammu Kashmir. Then Neolithic tools are also found in Garo hills of Meghalaya, and then Maski, Brahmagiri, Hallur, then Kodekal, and the Sanganakallu, and T. Narsipur, Piklihal, and Takalkota of Karnataka. So mark Karnataka is important for the Neolithic sites. And then Payampalli is an important Neolithic site in Tamil Nadu. So Palli. So all these, they are the words which are from South India. So mark this as important. Then Utnur, Ur. So this is also a South Indian name, and it is present in Andhra Pradesh. And then Piklihal. So here they were cattle herders. So cattle herding was famous in North India during Vedic ages, but here during the Neolithic itself, so there was a good cattle herding. And then come to next, the Chalcolithic age. So 5500 to 3000 BC, somewhere around then. So here we have various cultures. One is the Jorve culture. So this was rural, but some of its settlements, such as in Daimabad, Inamgaon, etc. So the urban stages was present. Then Chalcolithic farming cultures in Ahar, so used in microlith tools. Okay, so stone axes or blades are absent here. Friends, here when it comes to megaliths and microliths, so here two differentiation will happen. One is the tools used for the hunting and food gathering. So Paleolithic age, they used to have megaliths, and then the Mesolithic and Neolithic people, they started using the smaller tools. That means the microliths. So these are the microliths are the tools which are used for hunting and food gathering. But even during the Neolithic age, we will find some megaliths. That means the larger stones. That is, these stones used in the Mesolithic and Neolithic age, they are not the tools for hunting and food gathering, but they are used for burying the people. So they are the burial stones. So mark as two different analogies for the megaliths and microliths. Then people of Ahar practice smelting and metallurgy. So metallurgy was prominent here. So several flat axes, bangles, then metal sheets made up of copper. So they were all present in Ahar. So remember the Ahar and Jorve cultures here. And then come to next, the people in Ahar lived in stone houses. So stone houses were constructed. Then Ganeshwar deposits. So that also predates the Harappan culture. So Ganeshwar culture was also a Chalcolithic culture. So we had the Ganeshwar Jodhpur culture in the 2021 prelims. So that is worth remembering. Then Ganeshwar principally supplied copper objects to Harappa. So mark it as important. Then Malwa culture, so found in Navdatoli, Iran and Nagada, is again considered to be non-Harappan. So here when it comes to Chalcolithic, we always have a confusion between whether they are Harappan or non-Harappan. So that is why so many excavations now they are proving them to be Chalcolithic, that is before Harappan. Then at Brahmagiri, one skeleton was buried with 33 gold beads, then 2 stone beads and 3 copper bangles. So here bead making industries and copper smelting, so they come to prominence. Then come to next, Indus Valley civilization. So it flourishes around 2500 BC. So in the western part of South Asia. So here some of the important sites are Harappa. So Harappa is situated on the bank of Ravi. So do some geography here. So here we have the sandstone statues of human anatomy. So statues of head, statues of torso, statues of the hands and legs. So all these are being available. Then Mohenjo-daro. So it is also called the mound of dead. So it is situated on the bank of Indus River. So mark it as important. So here great bath, then the bronze dancing girl, so dancing girl made up of bronze, and then the seal of Pashupati, and then the steatite statue of bearded man, and the piece of woven cotton. So these are present in this Mohenjo-daro. Then Kalibangan, so it is present in Rajasthan on the bank of Gaggar river, and here we have the fire altar, so that is the fire altars made for Yaga and Yagnas. Then the camel bones are present, so here camels were being reared. Then the wooden plow, so this was also available. Then Lothal, it is on Gujarat on Bhogwa river, so on the Gulf of Cambay, and here the first man-made port it was, and here the rice husk, that is rice cultivation. So but obvious coastal area, good rainfall and water available for irrigation, and chess playing. So mark it as important because on the games we had one question of the Fernando Nunes in 2021 prelims. Then Surkatoda, so again Gujarat, so here the bones of horses, so along with camels, horses were also there. Then Banawali, so Hisar district of Haryana, so beets and barley, and then Dolavira, so Gujarat in run of Kutch. Okay, so here water harnessing system and water reservoirs. Okay, so here again, so we used to recall one prelims question which stated that the Harappan civilization people, they didn't know the rearing of horses. So here we have the bones of horses, but check with the UPSC official answer key what it says. Then come to next, the Sutka Gendor. So it is on Dast river. So it is a trade point between Harappa and Babylonia. So remember this. Then Chuna Daro. So it is in Sindh on the Indus river again. So here the bead maker shop, then the footprint of a dog chasing a cat. So that was also, that means pet animals were prominent. Then Amri on the bank of Indus again. So here the antelope evidence. So the evidence of a deer has been found. Then come to next, Vedic Age. So here in the Vedic Age, so we find the Aryans who defeated Dasas and Dasyus, the indigenous tribals. So here these Aryans, so they will set up the cow herding kingdom. That means in those kingdoms, the cow herding or the cattle rearing was very much prominent. And here the tribe was called Jana and the tribal chief was called Rajan, or he was also called as Gopati or Gopa, and the chief queen was called Mahishi. And then many battles such as Gavishti, Gavaishana, then Goshu, Gavyat were fought, and then the tribal assemblies were held. They were called the Samitis. And the administration, Purohit was there. He was the head priest who will do the yagas and yagnas. So Brahmanism was also prominent during the Vedic age. And then the Senani, so he was the chief of the army. Then Prajapati, officer who controlled the territory. And then Gramani, so leader of the village and the fighting unit inside the village. Then Bali, so it is the voluntary offering called Bali, that is a part of the crops being surrendered to the king. Then several tribal assemblies were also mentioned in Rigveda, that is Sabha, a smaller body meant for elites. Then Samiti, broad-based folk assembly. So here this is presided over by Rajan. Then Vidata, tribal assembly with the diverse functions. So diverse functions means various guilds we can say for example potters assembly, cobblers assembly, so likewise. Then Gana, assembly or troop. So here a piece of army we can say. Then pre-Aryans, so they are called Dasas and Dasyus. Then come to next, so in the Vedic age we have Rigved, Samaved, Yajurveda and Atharvaved, or Rigveda, Samaveda, Yajurveda and Atharvaveda. Then come to next, Brahmanas. So here various Brahmanas are there, and these are say the appendices which are essential to read the Vedas. So if you read Brahmanas and then read Vedas, you will understand them better. So here we have Aitareya or Kausitaki Brahmanas. So they were allotted to Rig Veda for detailing. So detailed explanations are present by these for Rig Veda. And then Tandya and Jaiminiya Brahmanas. So they are to the Samaveda. And then Taittiriya and Shatpata Brahmana. So they are for Yajurved, and then Gopat Brahmana for Atharvaved. Then after that Aranyakas. So Aranyakas are also called as the forest books, as they were written by the chiefly hermits residing in forest for their students. So these Aranyakas, these are the updated versions of the Vedas. So after Veda, what we have to? After learning Veda, so what is our next learning? So these are the current affairs update we can say. So they are the Aranyakas. They were written by the priests frequently. And then Upanishads. So here the literal meaning of Upanishad is to sit near someone. So there are 108 Upanishads of which, so 13 are most important. So Satyamev Jayate, the national emblem, is taken from Mundaka Upanishad. So this one, the Mundaka Upanishad, was once asked in prelims. Then Chandogya Upanishad clearly refers to the first three ashrams, that is the Brahmacharya, Grihastha and Vanaprastha. And then the Vedangas, so these are the limbs of Vedas. So here we have the phonetics, then the astronomic grammar, then the word meaning etymology, then the metrics measurement, so all these things. So these we can say like these are important for philosophy as well as to the everyday life. Okay, so Shiksha, Kalpa, Jyotisha, Vyakarna, Nirukta and Chanda. Okay, so remember all these. Then come to next Mauryas. So here the 325 BC to 185 BC. So Chandragupta, Bindusara, then Ashoka. So they were prominent rulers. Then Chanakya's Arthashastra. So that becomes important here. Then Megasthenes was an ambassador who was sent to the court of Chandragupta with the Greek ruler Seleucus Nicator. Then Ashoka was one of the greatest rulers who was known for his the Dhammagosha and also for his inscriptions and pillars. Then most of Ashoka's inscriptions were in Prakrit and were written in the Brahmi script. So remember the language and the script in which it was written. And some of the edicts of Ashoka. So here we have the Mansehra, Shabasgari, Kandahar, then Kalsi, then Delhi Topra, Meerut, then Lumbini, then Lauriya Nandangad, then Kaushambi, then Lauriya Araraj, then Rampurva, then Girnar, Sopara, then Sannati, Amravati, Jauguda and Dhauli, then Irragudi. Okay, so these are some of the ones. So just revise and just track the names. By seeing the names, we can guess whether it is the North Indian or South Indian. So that is more than sufficient. Then the pillars. So Ashoka has important pillars in Sarnath, then Basra, Bakira, and we had that Bakira lake. So compare with that. And then Rampurva Bill, then Sankisa, Lauriya Nandangad. So here all the pillars are there. Then the monumental figures of Yakshas and Yakshinis. So these were erected. So that shows the popularity of worship of Yakshas during that times. Then rocket elephant at Dhauli. So we remember Odisha for Gajapati rulers and Dhauli. So there the importance of elephant is depicted in both the cases. Then Lomas Rishi cave, the rocket cave at Barabar hills near Gaya. And Ashoka patronized these caves for Ajivika sect. So Ajivika, the Jainism, so all these we have a brief reference. Then stupas were constructed over the relics of the Buddha at Rajagriha, Kapilavastu, Vaishali, then Ramagrama, then Allakappa, Pava, then Vetadipa, then Pippalivina, then Kushinagar. So mark the geography of all these in the maps and just study. So this will fetch you good marks if any of these are appeared or any of the places nearby them are appearing in UPSC. Then post-Mauryans. So they are also called as Indo-Greeks or Bactrians. So they were the first to come around 200 BC. Friends, here who came first, whether Indo-Greeks or Indo-Iranians? So there is always a confusion because the exact time when did Indo-Greeks came, that we don't know. So but however, those controversial issues UPSC will not bring into the question and create more confusion. So we will remember that the Bactrians, Parthians, so they were present after Mauryans and before Guptas. So that is more than sufficient for us. And then other facts. The most famous of Bactrian kings was Menander or Milinda, and he converted to Buddhism under the guidance of Nagarjuna. Then the dialogue between them is known as Milinda Panho, or the dialogue between Nagarjuna and Milinda is called the same. Then they influenced Gandhara style of art. Then came Parthians. So they were the kings of Iranian origin. So here we have date 247 BC to 224 AD. Their rule coincided with Shakas, and then Parthians used the silver coins. So mark this, they used the silver coins. And then came the Shakas, and the Shakas, they were from 150 BC to 400 AD. Shakas were able to conquer Kathiawar and Malwa, so Rajasthan, Gujarat region, and the Shaka also started Satrap system. Satrap system means federal system. That means the state was divided into several provinces. Then Kushanas, 30 AD to 275 AD. First king was called Kujalo Kadphises, and the second was Vima Kadphises. So Vima Kadphises, so he introduced the gold coins for the first time. So remember the silver coins and the gold coins here. So this was first time and that was not the first time. So here they used only, not the first time. Then come to next, Guptas. So Guptas, they started from Sri Gupta, that is the founder of Gupta, and he ruled from 240 AD to 280 AD, and he used the title Maharaja. Then came Chandragupta I. So he started the Gupta era, that is the calendar, and he assumed the title of Maharaja the Raja and married the prince Kumara Devi. So for us, this Kumara Devi is important because Chandragupta I, he introduced Kumara Devi type of coins. So for the coinage, this name is important. Then Samudragupta, so he was called the Napoleon of India, so because he conquered many of the kingdoms, and his campaigns are mentioned in Iran inscription of Madhya Pradesh. So remember the Iran inscription, And then Chandragupta II, also called as Chandragupta Vikramaditya. So he had Navaratnas, that is 9 gems, that is the Kalidasa, then Amar Simha. So all these, they were included, and he had a good contributions on the literary works for Indian history, and he was also called as Chandragupta Vikramaditya. Then Kumaragupta I. So he founded the famous Nalanda University, and he was also called as Shakraditya. Then Skandagupta, so he was a Vaishnavite, and he repulsed an attack from Hunas. So make sure that Huns or Hunas, they came during the end of Guptas. Then Vishnugupta, so last known ruler of Gupta dynasty. Then come to next, post Guptas. So here North India was divided into 4 major kingdoms, that is the later Guptas of Magadha, then Maukaris, Pushyabhutis and Maitrakas. So all these, they were asked in 2021 prelims, so we remember. Maukaris first held the region of western UP around Kanauj, so they ruled around Kanauj, and then Pushyabhutis ruled to Taneshwar, north of Delhi. So Delhi was the hotspot for Pushyabhutis. Then Maitrakas, so they were Iranian origin and they ruled in Gujarat, and they developed Vallabhi as a capital city. So Vallabhi, that is the Jainist councils of Vallabhi. So that is how we remember this. Then all the kingdoms came into prominence after the Hun, that is the 5th century invasion. So mark, Huns came during the 5th century. Then come to next, the South Indian dynasties of ancient India. So here the South Indian evidence, it starts from the Neolithic age. So we found that Karnataka has the maximum Neolithic sites. So from there we start the Sangam age. Sangam age means 3rd century BC to 3rd century AD. So during the time of Mauryas, and then the Kushans, Parthians and others, and then the Pandyas. So slowly Pandyans come into picture. So these Pandyas rule that covers the modern Tirunelveli, Madurai, then Ramnad district and South Travancore, then Cholas. So here we have 2 Cholas, that is the ancient Cholas and medieval Cholas. So here mark the ancient Cholas and then the Cheras. So they were the Keralians. And next, coming to next, the Pallavas. So the Pallavas, they defeated the ancient Cholas and they came to the rule. Okay, and after the defeat of Pallavas, the medieval Cholas, they will come to the rule. Okay, so here the Pallavas, so they have Mahendravarman, Narasimhavarman and Narasimhavarman II or Rajasimhavarman. So they were important rulers. Then during the same time, bit north of Tamil Nadu, so in Karnataka and Andhra Pradesh region, Chalukyas and Rashtrakutas, they were in rule during the same time as Pallavas. And then we have the medieval Cholas. So here Rajaraja I, Rajendra Chola, and then the Gangaikonda Cholapuram. So all those we remember here. Then the rule of Harsha. Friends, Harshavardhana was the descent of Pushyabhutis. So Pushyabhutis we learned in the post Guptas, and here Rajavardhana was killed by the Gauda king Shashanka. So Gaudas were also prominent at that time. And then Harshavardhana, he ascended the Pushyabhuti throne in 606. Then during his rule many things happened. That is Huan Sang. So he visited the kingdom of Harsha. Then after the death of Shashanka in his second expedition, so Harshavardhana, he conquered the Magadha also. Then Kauda kingdom was divided between Harsha and Bhaskar Varman. Then Bhaskar Varman was the king of Kamrupas. So remember Kamrupas of Assam. And then Aihole inscription mentions that Harsha was defeated by the Pulakeshi. So Harsha's eastern expedition, that is Kamrupa, we studied here. Then the southern expedition was stopped by Pulakeshi. So Pulakeshi was the king of Chalukyas. So Chalukyas of Badami. So here we have the Chalukyas of Badami in the western side and Chalukyas of Kalyani in the eastern side. So mark those also. And then Harsha wrote 3 Sanskrit plays. So he was a writer as well. That is Nagananda, Ratnavali and Priyadarshika. Then Banapatta. So he wrote Harsha Charita and Kadambari. So Harsha Charita. So it was the biography of Harsha. Then the 2 most celebrated events of Harsha's reign, that was the assemblies at Kanauj and Prayaga. So in Prayaga, he held more than 6 assemblies where extensive charities were given, and also in Kanauj assembly. So this assembly was held in the honor of Huyen Sang. So he honored Huyen Sang in that, and Kanauj assembly was attended by 24,000 Buddhist monks. So for all of them, he gave great charities. So these 2 charitable assemblies were also important during his reign. Then come to next, Porunai River. So here a carbon dating analysis of rice with soil found in a burial at Shivakalai in Thoothukudi district of Tamil Nadu. So here in Thoothukudi district, so one burial place was being excavated. So in that, one urn, a small pot-like thing was found, and within that the rice was there, and that was taken out and carbon dating was done on that rice. And they found some details like there was a civilization near the Porunai River or the Tamirabarani River, and that civilization that dated back to 1155 BC. So 1155 BC means somewhere around the Vedic age. So we got a civilization which was as old as a Vedic age, and as a continuation, so here Tamil Nadu Archaeological Department, so they are doing further researches to find the connections of these Tamirabarani civilizations with the Qusair al-Khadim and Perinka Aneka. So their relations with Egypt is being studied, then their relation with Oman is being studied by excavating core RaRe, and their relations with other nations like Thailand, Sri Lanka, Cambodia were also studied, because here we know that Rajendra Chola, so he had conquered some of the places in the Southeast Asia, so that's why that becomes important here. And then Mangarbani Cave paintings. So it is a forested area in Faridabad district of Haryana. So there they got one cave called Mangarbani, and archaeologists have discovered cave paintings at prehistoric site here, and that belongs to Upper Paleolithic age. So Upper Paleolithic means somewhere very much comparable to Bhimbetka. Then, however, tools from the Paleolithic age have been identified earlier in parts of Aravallis also. So even near Aravallis, so we have some Paleolithic sites. Then moreover, the latest discovery will take Haryana back in time. So more and more excavations can also trigger from this. So remember, Mangarbani, it is a cave painting and it belongs to Upper Paleolithic age. Then come to next, the sites of Hire Benkal. So megalithic site of Hire Benkal. So this is a megalith, that means stone used for burial. So Hire Benkal is one of the largest megalithic site in Karnataka, and the 2800-year-old megalith site of Hire Benkal was made it a tentative list for UNESCO, and owing to the fact that it is one of the largest prehistoric megalithic settlement where some funerary monuments are still intact. So the same one, and according to scholars, granite structures are the burial moments. So wherever the granite structures are found like this, so they are the burial ones, and due to extremely valuable collection of Neolithic monuments, the site was proposed for the recognition, and here the date is between 800 to 200 BC. Friends, don't compare this period with that of the age which we kept for the actual Neolithic age, because in South India, even after 1st century AD, so several prehistoric monuments were being found. So the civilization need not start at a time in all places, and it need not end at a time in all places. So there are differences, so we will respect those differences and move on. So these are some of the topics. Then coming to the last part, friends, as we discussed in many of the places here, the practical ground reality, so that is the one which UPSC is testing sometimes. So if you have that practicality in your brain, so even if you don't know some questions, you can tackle them. And if you have practicality in your brain, even if you don't know some mains questions, you can attempt and get some average marks. So make sure that the ground reality, what is happening in the society and what happens within our people around us, so that is the paramount. So if you don't know that, so we cannot imagine the society when we wear the suit and boots, or when we live the costly luxury life and see the people through the cooling glasses of your eyes and your cars. So be one amongst them. So let your heart, so let it be connected directly to the people. Only then you will become a true human being and also a true officer. So do it all the very best. Good luck, friends.